Hola everyone, my title is Don Juan El Negro, and I am here to narrate you through this story on how I discovered my Assyrian Shemite roots, and how I discovered my Hamitic Egyptian roots, and how I discovered my European roots, and how I discovered my Negro Hebrew roots. And hopefully you can use this as a tool to discover your roots too if you happen to be a Negro. I sincerely hope you enjoyed the display of the magnificent Negro kings and queens of Europe. So these kings and queens of Europe, these Negro kings and queens, are the direct descendants of the American Negroes who recently lost their kingdom in Europe. It's been recently. We can say starting in 1492, the same year Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Doesn't that ring a bell in your brain? Shouldn't your antlers go up, your antennas, and say, whoa, what's going on with this? So what's going on with this is in 1492, the Islamic Moors and the Hebrew Jews expelled from Spain were all Negroes. The expulsion of the Jews and the Moors in Spain marked the beginning of the end of all Negro kingdoms in Europe. Beginning in Spain, then France, England, and Germany, they began to expel all Negroes from Europe. The expulsion is what we'll call a natural progression. It's like we're coming to take this land over, and we have to move these people out. So the place they shipped these people out to was the Western Hemisphere, the one that we call the Americas. And there was only one problem with that. It was that it was already so many blacks already in America, but they begrudgingly had to ship all the kings and queens that they had conquered in Europe. They had to ship them over to America. It's called displacement. You see, it's the art of war and genocide. So what they do, once they come and take over land and they're going to inhabit that land, you move the people out of that land to another land to disconnect them from that land. That way, in a couple of generations, they will be a lost people and not even know that they're from the land, and they will lose their memory of who they are. This event was a spiritual thing ordained by the Most High. So let's read from the Song of Moses as he speaks of this situation from the King Jacob's, better known as King James, version of the Bible. And it reads, I said, I would scatter them into corners. I would make the remembrance of them to cease from amongst men. So this is the exact event that Moses is speaking of. So let's read a little further in this Song of Moses riddle to gain a better understanding of the situation. So Deuteronomy 32:26. I said I would scatter them into corners. I would make the remembrance of them to cease from amongst men. Were it not that I feared the wrath of the enemy, lest their adversaries should behave themselves strangely, and lest they should say, our hand is high, and Yahweh have not done all this. So right now, this present condition, Caucasian think that he was so great, that's why he overtook our people. But Yahweh have done this. For they are a nation void of counsel, neither is there any understanding in them. They have hidden the understanding of this from the people. Oh, that they were wise, that they understood this, that they would consider their letter end. So you have to understand what's going on to understand what's going to happen. How should one chase 1,000 and two put 10,000 to flight, except their rock had sold them and Yahweh have shut them up? So it was just a minority, a small group of Caucasians that overtook all these kings in Europe and came over to America and took over all these tribes, and then went all over the world, take all over these tribes. That's because that was ordained from Yahweh in the Bible. We went down and they went up. So let's let Benjamin Franklin explain the situation on how the displacement of the Negroes from Europe created a problem in America, because there were already too many blacks in America for Benjamin Franklin's liking. First, we have to look up the word swarthy, the definition of swarthy. So here's swarthy at the bottom, and it says swarthy, dark of complexion, black, dusky, tawny. So we can see that swarthy and tawny mean dark of complexion, black. What they're talking about is the European Negro. So Benjamin Franklin's letter is called observations concerning the increase of mankind in 1751. So this is going to tell you how Europe was in 1751, how America was in 1751, and how a lot of the population of the world was in 1751. So let's get right into it. So these are the final two paragraphs of the whole letter. So this summarizes his thoughts. And it reads, since detachments of English from Britain sent to America will have their places at home so soon supplied and increase so largely here, why should the Palatine Boers be suffered to swarm into our settlements? So these Palatine Boers are black Germans, and by herding together establish their language and manners to the exclusion of ours. Why should Pennsylvania, founded by the English, become a colony of aliens who will shortly be so numerous as to Germanize us instead of our anglifying them, and will never adopt our language or customs any more than they can acquire our complexion? So these Palatine Boers are a different complexion. They are swarthy, which leads me to add one remark, that the number of purely white people in the world is proportionally very small, so they were a vast minority. All of Africa is black or tawny, so you can see the condition of all of Africa. Asia chiefly tawny, so Asia is chiefly tawny too. He's talking about all Mesopotamia and all, what you call the Middle East and stuff. America exclusive of the newcomers, wholly so. So you see America exclusive of the newcomers, which would be the Caucasians, is wholly so tawny. And in Europe, the Spaniards, Italians, French, Russians, and Swedes are generally of what we call swarthy complexion. So in all those countries, Spain, Italy, France, Russia, Sweden, are generally what we call swarthy complexion. So in 1751, according to Benjamin Franklin, the population of Europe was predominantly Negro, as are the Germans also. The Saxons only, excepted, who, with the English, make the principal body of white people on the face of earth, a vast minority. I could wish their numbers were increased. And while we are, as I may call it, scouring our planet, by clearing America of woods, and so making this side of the globe reflect a brighter light to the eyes of the inhabitants of Mars and Venus, why should we, in the sight of superior beings, darken its people? Why increase the sons of Africa by planting them in America? So he's saying, why are we sending all these, he's calling them sons of Africa, these Negroes from Europe, why are we planting them in America? Where we have so fair an opportunity by excluding all blacks and tawnies. So he says, in America, we have an opportunity to exclude all the blacks and tawnies that are already there, of increasing the lovely white and red. So he wants to increase his people, the white and red. But perhaps I am partial to the complexion of my country, for such kind of partiality is natural to mankind. So we have it from Benjamin Franklin. The condition was they were displacing the Negroes in Europe, so they were sending them to America. And he had a problem with that because there were already too many blacks and tawnies in America for Benjamin Franklin's liking. So this answers the question on who are the blacks in America. They are primarily of European descent and Native American descent, primarily. So did you notice Ben Franklin didn't mention bringing slaves from Africa one time? Not once. He was only saying stop sending so many Negroes from Europe because there are too many black people in America already. So that should open up your eyes right there about this billions of slaves from Africa thing. So here we have a book called The Jacobites Gleaning from State Manuscripts, Short Sketches of Jacobites, The Transportations in 1745 by J. Macbeth Forbes. So what gleaning is the process of ethnic cleansing, where you gather up a certain people, you gather them here and there all over, and then you ship them out. ethnic cleansing. So this is a record of the ethnic cleansing of the Jacobites. So the Jacobites are Scottish Highlanders who supported King James, who had just lost his kingdom, who was trying to restore the kingdom and had lost the war of the second Jacobites uprising at Calderdon Moor. So in this book, they are gathering them together and shipping them off to America to serve as service and force soldiers and things like that. So the Jacobites uprising in 1745, simply put, was a race war which struck the final blow to the blacks' hope for regaining their kingdom from the Caucasians. Then they shipped them off to America. So on page 48, let's read about the gleaning, the ethnic cleansing of some of these Jacobites. Okay, it reads, an exact list and description of 150 rebel prisoners shipped at Liverpool on board the Veteran. So these were Negroes who had lost, to the Caucasians, so they're rebel prisoners now. So they shipped at Liverpool on board the Veteran. So they boarding them on the ship, shipping them out. John Ricky Master for the Leeward Islands. So they're shipping them off to this Western Hemisphere, which were taken near Antigua the 28th June last by Diamond Privateer Paul Marcel, commander, and carried into Martinico the 30th June 1747. So they arrived on the American Hemisphere at Martinico in 1747. So let's look at the description of these Jacobites. The first guy name is Robert Adams. He's 18 years old. He's a laborer by profession. He is from Sterling. He's 5'1". He is brown skinned, smooth face. That's Negro number 1. Second gentleman name is William Bell, 46 years old, a weaver by profession, from Berwick, 5'4", black curled hair, strong made. Negro number 2, these Jacobites. The third one is Dougal Campbell, servant, from Loch Humber, 5'4", brown, 5'4", brown, complexion, well made, ready. Is Negro number 4, number 3 out of 3. The next guy is Alex Katanek. He's a miller by profession, and he's from Badenoch. He's 5'5", black, ready, well made. That's Negro number 4. The fifth guy is Alex Campbell. We're gonna go with Alex Campbell. He's a laborer. He's 18 for Inverness, 5'4.5". He's ditto, so he's brown also. He's pock pitted. The next guy is John Campbell. He's a laborer also. He's from Argyle. He's 5'2". He's brown also. Then it says swarty. So all of these are Negroes. You can go down. The next guy is ruddy, black, brown, black, brown, black, brown, brown, black, black, black. These are all Negroes. These are the Jacobites that they're shipping out. These are the direct descendants of the American Negro. This is proof positive of that. So look at the names of these Negroes. Robert Adams, William Bell, John Campbell, John Gordon, John Johnson, June Kennedy. These are original Negro names of the Scottish Highlanders. So if it says your family brought this name over from Europe in 1750, chances are they were Negroes shipped over here, and it's your name. You didn't get this name from Caucasians. They got these names from us. So I'm going to show the whole list of all the 150 prisoners, and you can see the names. You got James Lawson here. You got Donald McDonald, Hugh McDonald. McDonald's was one of the favorite names. Here you go, Dan McDonald. Okay, Will Campbell, John McIntosh. These are all the original Negro Scottish Highlander names. Mark McCormick, Donald McDonald, Donald McGillis. So if you see these names, your family name on here, your family bring this name over here. Will Thomas, Robert Warren. That's something valuable to know. You thought you got your name from a Caucasian, but it's actually original Negro Scottish Highlander name. This is proof positive of that. So let's finish this knowledge off with page number 66, which is very revealing about America. And it says, reverting to the transported prisoners, there are no statistics as to the rate of mortality of these in the various colonies and plantations to which they were sent. Bishop Hay, in his Jacobite memoirs, tells of 81 Highlanders who were tempted to submit in Inverness and were thereupon placed on board the king's vessels and subjected to the wretched treatment in them. Those who survived were sent to Barbados, where only 18 were alive 3 years after, out of 81. So you can see how wretched and treacherous it was to come across on the king's vessels from Europe to America to serve as slaves and stuff. So let's continue. John Fiske, in his Old Virginia and Her Neighbors, rather delights in the circumstances that many Scottish prisoners became colonists in America, 150 having been sent to Boston and 1670 to Virginia in the year 1650 by Cromwell. Cromwell was famous for rounding up the Jacobites and torturing them and sending them off, who captured them at Dunbar. The Rising in 1715 was responsible for the deportation of about 1,000. That would be the first Jacobite rebellion. And the rebellion in 1745 for probably about 1600, that would be the second Jacobite rebellion. If forced soldiers and indentured prisoners be taken together. As to the latter period, this says, later on in the 1745, after the suppression of the Jacobite rebellion, there came to North Carolina a powerful reinforcement of Scottish Highlanders, among them of the MacDonald clan, including the romantic Flora MacDonald, who had done so much for the young fugitive prince. So the MacDonald clan was one of the most strongest Scottish Highlander clans, and Flora MacDonald had assisted the fugitive prince, King James' nephew, in his unsuccessful attempt to restore the throne. Okay, and then it says a very interesting statement after that. It says, how far the Celtic 11, that would be the black Irishmen, due to deportation, means sending them to America, have leavened the West Indian and transatlantic lump, it would be difficult to say. So that riddle says, how much have these Scottish Highlanders been sent to America in this hemisphere, how it has grown in the bloodline of the people that are over here. That's what that's saying. And that is the biggest kept secret by Caucasians, that you are the descendants of the Scottish Highlanders and all the European kings that were deposed recently. So it's time to give recognition to our magnificent Negro European kings. So here we have Otto the Great. His title is, he's the king of Saxony, the king of Italy, the king of Germany, and the first Holy Roman Emperor. And next to him is his lovely wife, Edith, and she is the Queen of England. As you can see, they were married in 929 AD, and these statues are still erected and standing at St. Catherine's Cathedral in Magdeburg, Germany, dedicated to St. Maurice, who is a Moorish Negro Christian saint. So here we have Otto's great uncle, Charlemagne, Charlemagne's Golden Shrine, located at the Palatine Chapel in France. So Charlemagne was actually the first Holy Roman Emperor And what happened was the Pope was having a beef with some people, and so he sent off to Charlemagne to come help him, squash the beef. So Charlemagne left the lands of the Franks and went over to Rome to help the Pope, and he squashed the beef and everything because he was a mighty guy, right? And so when he was about to leave, the Pope said, "Ho, don't go. First, I want to knight you as the Holy Roman Emperor, my muscle man." So Charlemagne thought about it, and he accepted the offer. So he went on to live his life as the Holy Roman Emperor for the rest of his life. But once he died, his relatives was riffing over who was to be the successor, and they split up the kingdom, and it went to shambles for a few generations. Then, until the chosen one was born, who had been Otto. And what he did, he unified everything. He made all relatives and everybody get in line, and he solidified everything and became the most powerful man in the history of Europe. So let's read about the history of the great Carolingian kings, Charlemagne and Otto the Great, from Real History Worldwide. In the 560s, the Avars, a highly organized nomadic confederacy of mixed origins, they were ruled by a Khagan, who was surrounded by a tight-knit entourage of nomad warriors, an organization characteristic of Turco-Mongol groups. Founded by the Avar Khaganate, a state which maintained supremacy in the region for more than 2 centuries and had the military power to launch attacks against all its neighbors. The Avar Khaganate was weakened by constant wars and outside pressure, and the Black Franks under Charlemagne managed to defeat the Avars, ending their 250-year rule. So Charlemagne, he rose up and defeated these Turco-Mongol groups who were occupying his region for 250 years. These Turco-Mongol Khans, they were foreigners, so to get them up out of Europe, that's like saving Europe, So this was a great feat performed by Charlemagne. So let's read further. So let's jump down to chapter 2 to learn about Otto. It reads, after the fall of the great Hun and Avar nomadic empires, only the Western Slovak and Southern Slovak people who had been settling in the area since the 6th and 7th centuries succeeded in establishing themselves in the Carpathian Basin. In 895 and 896, under the leadership of Arpad, some new albinos, that's what they call Caucasians on Real History Worldwide, crossed the Carpathians and entered the Carpathian Basin. The tribe called Magyars was the leading tribe of the alliance that conquered the center of the basin. So some new Caucasian conquerors entered the land. The Magyars, confederation of Turkic tribes, was probably led by 2 high princes, the Kendi, their spiritual ruler, and the Gugla, their military leader. The high princes were either elected by the leaders of the tribes or appointed by the Khagan of the Khazars, modern Jews. So these are the people of the modern Jews who were supporting the conquerors, the invaders, who had been exerting influence over the Magyars. Around 862, the 7 tribes separated from the Khazars. The force led by Arpad is estimated at about 400,000 people, consisting of 7 Turkic tribes, 1 Kabar tribe, and other smaller tribes. So these were the invaders. In the first half of the 10th century, during the decade that followed the conquest, raiding expeditions of Magyars, mounted warriors, subjected all of Europe to a constant state of terror. In time, however, they began to feel the effects of Western counter-strategy. When the Magyars invaded Bavaria in 955, the armored cavalry of Otto the Great, the Black Holy Roman Emperor checked their advance, and in the decisive battle in Litchfield, it annihilated the Magyar assailants. Although the Magyars launched further attacks on Byzantine following this devastating defeat, it became clear that they had arrived at a decisive historic crossroad. Two alternatives confronted them. Either they settle down, form a state, and adjust themselves to the people of Europe, or else the same fate would befall them that of the other nomadic peoples who had been annihilated in previous centuries. So Otto the Great and Charlemagne didn't play. Whenever people would come and try to invade and conquer our land, they would rise up and annihilate the opposition and put them in their place. That's where they were the great kings of Europe. They saved Europe. So here we have King James, the Stuart King, on the cover of a book from Cambridge History Study. King James is from the Stuart line of kings. Stuart is from the word swarty, which means Negro, which is a funny and peculiar thing, because once Caucasians came and took us over and ran us out and got up on the throne, and they started to say they were the Stuart kings. It's like, how can you be Stuart in your pale face? Stuart means Negro. I mean, come on. It's like really funny. And it's really kind of like this. It's time for Caucasians to stop pretending to be black people. The cat is out of the bag. Okay, we know. So let's read a page from a book by a brilliant Caucasian scholar who is hell-bent on telling the truth about King James. And this image is located in New College Library, Edinburgh, United Kingdom. And the page reads as thus. I know that this image of a black King James can be a little confusing because of your Western education, but this is the truth that is known by the rich and the elite of the world. That was the reason I paraded all of the English historians and professors before I got into the bowels of this book. I had to get your mind ready to receive the truth. King James came from a long line of black Scottish Stuart kings, 343 years of rulership in Scotland. The Stuarts not only ruled in Scotland, they ruled France, Spain, Ireland, and England, Britain, Wales. King James was able to rule all of these lands because all of these people were of Iberian black descent. So King James' actual name is King Jacob, and he is a Hebrew Israelite of the tribe of Judah. King James is the actual bloodline descendant of King Jacob in the Bible. He is King Jacob, and he is the actual bloodline descendant of King Jacob. So under the throne which King James sitteth lies a stone, and this stone is called the stone of Jacob and the stone of destiny. This stone was brought over by the ancient Scottish Hebrew centuries and centuries ago. This is the stone that all the black Scottish kings were coronated on for centuries and centuries, the stone of destiny. This is the stone that Jacob of the Bible lied down and rested upon when he seen the ladder come down from heaven and the angels ascending and descending, the stone from the scriptures. So let's read of that stone. Genesis 28 verse 10. And Jacob went out from Beersheba and went toward Haran. And he lighted upon a certain place and tarried there all night, because the sun was set. And he took of the stones of that place and put them for his pillows, and lie down in that place to sleep. And he dreamed, and behold, a ladder set up on the earth, and the top of it reached to heaven. And behold, the angels of Elohim ascending and descending on it. And behold, Yahweh stood above it and said, I am Yahweh Elohim of Abraham, thy father, and the Elohim of Isaac. The land whereon thou liest, to thee I will give it, and to thy seed. And thy seed shall be as the dust of the earth, and thou shalt spread abroad to the west, and to the east, and to the north, and to the south. And in thee and in thy seed shall all the families of the earth be blessed. And behold, I am with thee and will keep thee in all the places whither thou goest, and will bring thee again into this land, for I will not leave thee until I have done that which I have spoken to thee of. And Jacob awaked out of his sleep and said, Surely Yahweh is in this place, and I knew it not. And he was afraid and said, How dreadful is this place! This is none other than the house of Elohim, and this is the gate of heaven. And Yaakov rose up early in the morning and took the stone that he had put for his pillow and set it up for a pillar and poured oil upon it, upon the top of it. And he called the name of that place Bethel, but the name of that place was called Luz at the first. And Jacob vowed a vow, saying, If God will be with me and will keep me in this place that I go, and will give me bread to eat and remnant to put on, so that I come again to my father's house in peace, then shall Yahweh be my Elohim, and this stone which I have set for a pillar shall be Elohim's house. And of all that thou shalt give me, I will surely give thee a tenth unto thee. So the throne that King James sat on and lost to the Caucasian is the actual throne promised to Jacob in the Bible. This is the stone brought over to the British Islands by the ancient Scottish Hebrew kings, the Jacobites. So King James and all the Stuart Negro kings before him were all coronated on this stone from their people from the Bible. And once they lost and were conquered in this struggle of this birthright, when they lost the birthright and lost the kingdom, now Queen Elizabeth is coronated on this throne. And here you can see her playing out the role in the Bible. You can see the step pyramid, that's the ladder, Jacob's ladder going up. And then you see the angels ascending and descending. See, you see the wings on their shoulders and everything. And then under that throne in which she sits, you will find the stone of destiny, the stone of Jacob. So when they were shipping all those defeated Jacobites to America, to South Carolina, North Carolina, and Boston, they were sending the royal bloodline of Jacob, King James people, King Jacob's people over here. So that's your real Hebrew bloodline. Okay, on the count of 3, I want all you Negroes out there and all you Negro lovers out there to do something for a young Negro brother. I want you to push that subscribe button in the right left hand bottom corner over there, and the count of 3. So here we go. 1, 2, 3. Push the button for a young Negro. Put him on the map. Alright, gracias. I call myself a young Negro, even though I'm almost finished with my 7th decade. So on that note, I want to get into my most favorite Negro ancestor of all time, and his name is Yahya el Negro Rabbi, or Don Juan el Negro Yahya.
In this video, we will do something for the first time in modern history in regards to the history of the Negro. We will read the laws and decrees of the kings and queens to see who they said they enslaved and to see what they said to do with them. To begin our journey, we'll go back in time to Portugal and Spain to the year 1055 AD. So in roughly 1055 AD, there was a Jew born by the name of Yahya. Now, Yahya flourished in the 11th century in Portugal. An important note about Yahya is that Yahya was a descendant of the house of King Dawid. He was a son of King Solomon himself. We can find references regarding Yahya's history in the Jewish Encyclopedia and other historical documents. The following reference shows each of Yahya's forefathers all the way back to King Dawid. Like Dawid, Yahya was a beast on the battlefield. The Bible says in 1 Samuel chapter 18, verse 7, and it reads, "And the women answered one another and played and said, Saul has slain his thousands, and Dawid his 10,000s. So in the 11th century, Yahya teamed up with King Alfonso of Portugal against the Moors. And after defeating the Moors, the king of Portugal honored Yahya by giving him a territory called Aldeias dos Negros, or village of the Negroes. And most importantly, he changed his name to Negro. And so the Yahyas became known as the Negroes, and they lived in a place called the village of the Negroes. Now, keep in mind, these Negroes worked directly for the king of Portugal and Spain. In fact, they were placed as rulers over their brothers and sisters of Judah. They became the chief rabbis, royal tax collectors, and governors. It was because of their position and their deeds that the Yahya Negroes became famous throughout all of Spain, Portugal, Turkey, and Italy. They were prominent and renowned. As the following reference reads, and it reads, Dam Yahya Yahish, ancestor of the widely branching Yahya family, also tolerant, likewise Sancho's son, Alfonso II, who employed the Jews as farmers of taxes and as tax collectors. And the next reference reads, and it reads, he thereupon entered the service of Henry of Castile, who made him the head of the Jewish communities of his realm. Over the years, the king of Spain and Portugal fought each other over control of these famous Negroes. Now, notice how the word Negro and Yahya are used interchangeably. Yahya was synonymous with Negro. As the following reference reads, it reads, Dawid and Judah, Negro. Or the next reference reads, Solomon ibn Yahya, Negro. It's fair to say everyone knew of the Negroes. In fact, if you were to board a time machine and go back to Spain and Portugal in the 1300s and 1400s and ask to see the Negroes, more than likely they would point you to a people with the last name of Negro who lived in the village of the Negroes and who looked like the modern day Negroes of today. From Yahya to Negro to the village of the Negroes to the chief rabbis to governors of Spain and Portuguese brews to the great expulsion in 1492. After Spain conquered the city of Granada, the king and queen of Spain told all the Jews to convert to Christianity, get out, or die. Even the Apostle Paul visited these black sons of King Dawid in Spain. Let's look at it this way. The Apostle Paul visited the very location of the transatlantic slave trade. Romans chapter 15, verse 24 reads, whensoever I make my journey into Spain, I will come to you, for I trust to see you in my journey, and to be brought on my way thither by you, if first I be somewhat filled with your company. Verse 28, when therefore I have performed this, and have sealed to them this fruit, I will come by you into Spain. Indeed, the sons of Dawid had endured persecution after persecution by the hands of the Christians, until finally many fled Spain and Portugal for Africa. For the sons of King Dawid, this was their Christian nightmare. And so, some Negroes fled from Spain and went directly into North Africa. And from there, they moved deeper into the interior, past the Sahara Desert, and settled in a place called Negro Land, also called Soudan, also called Lamb. And the sons of King Dawid had returned to the continent they left long, long ago. And indeed, the sons of King Dawid had returned. Let's take a closer look at the home of the Negroes in Africa called Negro Land. The question is, where did the Negroes of Negro Land come from? Let's see if we can find the answer. As the following reference reads, and it reads, the Negroes proceed from the Soudan or Negro Land and are the objects of a lucrative trade. They are a degree higher as a caste here than in America. The imperial family or the royal family is mulatto, and the Moros de Rey are mostly black. At Tatum, Tangier, and other cities of the North Coast, there are still many Moorish families who speak Spanish and are descendants of those who were expelled after the capture of Granada, which is Spain. Now notice, these Negroes were expelled from Granada in 1492. The question would be, who lived in Granada in 1492? As the following reference reads, and reads, King Alfonso, whence we may learn, if we can believe it, that a king of Spain had assisted Nebuchadnezzar in reducing Jerusalem, brought an enormous population into Spain, all from either the family of Dawid or at least from the tribe of Judah, and that the royal family resided first in Seville, then in Granada. We see the sons of King Dawid lived in Granada. The Negroes living in Negro Land came from Granada. And the Negroes living in Negro Land were said to be Jews. As the following reference reads, and it reads, the natives of Lamb, which is another name for Negro Land, are Jews. And the reference goes on to refer to these Jews as Negroes.
On that note, peace and shalom. And shalom and adios, mi Yahya Negros. Show me some love right now by pushing that subscribe button one time at the count of 3. Let's go. 1, 2, 3. Push the button. Hey, adios, my amigos. To the next episode.